Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today we are going to be talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois, Nick Suzuki, and the Montreal Canadiens. Now, if you don't know, over the past couple weeks, Pierre-Luc Dubois has been in some heavy trade rumors, and John Tortorella, the Blue Jackets head coach, has confirmed that Dubois wants to be traded. But recently, we've seen some heavy rumors linking Pierre-Luc Dubois to the Montreal Canadiens, but not just linking him to the Canadiens, also potentially involving a Nick Suzuki trade, Jesperi Kotkaniemi trade, and a lot more craziness as well. But how likely is it that a Pierre-Luc Dubois trade actually happens? Could Montreal pull off a trade like this? And could Nick Suzuki ever be traded in a deal involving Pierre-Luc Dubois? Watch till the end for all the info and all the latest rumors, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this one. 70% of the people that are watching these videos are not subscribed, so get on it, join the Grav gang for more hockey videos like this. Now, to give you guys some much needed context, there was a tweet by Nick Kypreos today where he said this: Pierre-Luc Dubois' first destination is the Montreal Canadiens. The Blue Jackets' ask is now focused around Nick Suzuki plus. He goes on to say Alexander Romanov has been deemed untouchable. Now, there is a lot to go through here. Obviously, Montreal and Columbus trying to work out a Pierre-Luc Dubois deal is not too surprising. Obviously, there's a bunch of rumors that have come before that, but we really didn't have an obvious answer as to what Columbus was looking for in a trade until now. They're looking for Nick Suzuki plus. Now, the big thing I want to say here, and I want to preface this as well by saying that obviously I'm not sure how likely this is, but I think it's important to note that he says the ask, or the Blue Jackets ask, is now focused around Nick Suzuki plus. So there was some prior discussions, and they still want and still think that it's a fair trade to have Nick Suzuki plus something else. And for Columbus, I mean, if we're being honest here, I'm not sure where the leverage is too much either. With Dubois, it's obvious he wants to trade. It's obvious he wants to trade to Montreal as well. So I'm not sure where they're getting all this leverage from out of nowhere. And yes, Pierre-Luc Dubois is a good player. But if we're being honest here, for Montreal, how much of an upgrade is Pierre-Luc Dubois over Nick Suzuki? I don't think it's any upgrade whatsoever. In some ways, I think Pierre-Luc Dubois might be better, but Nick Suzuki was so huge in his rookie season, and it started off amazingly against the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's going to continue that type of play this season. He is the first-line center for the Habs, and he will be the first-line center for the Habs in the future. And he's already shown that he can go under pressure, play in Montreal, and be up to a great level at such a young age. For Pierre-Luc Dubois, yes, he grew up in Montreal, or he grew up in Quebec, he grew up a Canadian kid, but there's no guarantee that actually translates to NHL production. I mean, with Jonathan Drouin, it's looking like he's having a solid year this year, let's hope, but for the most part, he's been a bust of a trade. And of course, he grew up a Habs fan. He wanted to come to the Montreal Canadiens, and it's just been an absolute dud of a trade. Obviously, Mikhail Sergachev is a much better player right now and a much more valuable player so far. And with Pierre-Luc Dubois, I'm not saying that's going to be a Drouin type situation. I think Dubois is definitely a better player than Drouin. But it's not a guarantee that just because he wants to go to Montreal, he'll actually play great there. And when you have a guy like Nick Suzuki, who's already the first-line center that they've been looking for such a long time, and he's come under the pressure, has been fantastic, and continues to be great this year, and it's looking even better this year if we're being honest, I'm not sure why Montreal would even do a one-for-one, let alone more on top of that. I can entertain the option of a one-for-one. I still don't think Montreal should do it, but more on top of that, it's just plain silly. And I don't think for Montreal, they'll ever accept a trade like that. Now, I'm not sure also if this is the way that Kypreos words this tweet, but he also, again, says that Romanov is untouchable. I'm not really sure why Romanov is untouchable, yet Nick Suzuki isn't, because with Nick Suzuki, he is, again, that first-line center that they've been wanting for such a long time now, for decades now. And with Romanov, I think he's going to be a good player, but I think Suzuki's overall value will be higher as that first-line C. I think Romanov's still going to be good, but it's kind of weird how he's the untouchable, yet Nick Suzuki isn't, unless they have a plan for Kotkaniemi to become that first-line center or something and maybe have Dubois there. I'm not really sure what's going on, but for me, at least, I think Nick Suzuki will be the better player. Obviously, with Pierre-Luc Dubois, he had his NHL season, his first NHL season 2 years earlier, had about the same points per game, but with Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's a guy that's been thrust into the Columbus system kind of the same way as Suzuki. They both got top 10 or top ice time. And I think with Suzuki in his rookie season, there were some times where I think he deserved more points and still overall was playing great for Montreal. But if we're being honest here, again, with Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think he's a guy that definitely is a great top six center, a guy who had a great playoffs versus Toronto especially. But I think that this last season at least is kind of tainting, or at least kind of putting a different spin on the value of Pierre-Luc Dubois, because I still think he's a very good player, but I'm not sure if he's a guy that'll come into Montreal, be the first line center off the gate, and will be fantastic right out there. I don't see that really happening and being the case. I think he's a really strong player for Columbus and defensively has a lot of value to give eventually, but I'm not sure if it's quite there yet. With Nick Suzuki, eye test wise, analytically, he was defensively better than Pierre-Luc Dubois last year. Offensively, I think it was lesser so, but still, I think in terms of overall production, what we could see, there is more potential in Suzuki's game. And I think Dubois will be a great addition for Montreal if they don't have to trade Suzuki or they don't have to trade Kotkaniemi, but it would have to be either one of those guys, obviously, for Columbus to do a deal like that. There could be some crazy way where Montreal gives up like 2 firsts, they give up like Mete, they give up like somebody else, but unless you're giving up like a Suzuki, a Kotkaniemi, a first, or a Caufield, like all 4 of those things have to be a main part of the trade, and let's be honest, a first round pick is not going to be enough, so it's probably going to have to be Suzuki, a major part of a deal. Kotkaniemi would have to be a major part of a deal, potentially, of course, separate deals, and Cole Caufield, I think if we're just doing a deal potentially for Montreal, they might end up offering and actually accepting. Cole Caufield might be a part of that, but I really don't see Montreal being in a position to do something like that. I think they're obviously entertaining the offer of Pierre-Luc Dubois coming, but if we're talking about the asking price here, there's not really too much of a reason for Pierre-Luc Dubois to not just wait, play these 2 years, and then sign with the Montreal Canadiens. I think he will be an RFA for one more season after that 2-year deal, but he could easily just go to Montreal, ask for a trade there, get traded then, or Montreal does a qualifying offer and then he ends up accepting that. We'll see what happens, but I feel like trading Nick Suzuki to get Pierre-Luc Dubois is just a little bit of a waste of what they've been building and what they've been trying to get. They get their first line center for the first time in forever and then trade him for a guy that hasn't proved himself yet. Obviously, every trade is a risk, but Suzuki has proved himself as that top 6 center and that first line center of the future, so I'm not sure, especially for a guy like Dubois, who's not a bona fide upgrade, why Montreal would do a move like this. Now, I do want to also share another tweet from another person, Brian Hedger from the Columbus Dispatch, and this one is, I think, a lot more bearable for what we could potentially see in a Dubois trade. Now, he says he hears Kotkaniemi / Mete and something else from asking around, but the only thing we know for sure is that Dubois remains a Blue Jacket. So Kotkaniemi and Mete and a potential deal like that, and also something else, which I'm not sure how major that would be, because I think Kotkaniemi could be a great player in the Columbus Blue Jackets, but that's a lot more of a tolerable deal for me at least. I mean, I think with Dubois and Kotkaniemi, comparing the two players, I think in terms of projection, I think they're probably pretty similar in terms of points and in terms of the player they might be, so I can kind of stomach that. I think losing Mete would kind of hurt them, and who knows what the other asset might be, but that's a lot better than losing Nick Suzuki plus something else as well, which I think would be an absolute disaster for Montreal. Personally, in a Kotkaniemi Mete deal, let's say it's Kotkaniemi Mete and a first round pick, I probably don't do that deal, because I feel like Kotkaniemi can round out as that great second center, and Mete I still think in the right role is a great NHL offensive defenseman, and who knows again what that extra ask is, but I think for Montreal at least, it's a much more entertaining offer, and that would go through. Just the Nick Suzuki option and the Nick Suzuki part, I think would be just terrible for Montreal. It would just be an absolute disaster for them. But if you do trade Kotkaniemi and Mete and a first round pick, let's say, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, and Dubois is a guy who is more NHL ready at this point, is obviously a lot older, has more size to him, and who knows what ends up happening, but personally, I would still like to see Kotkaniemi round out into that top 6 side for Montreal, which I think can still happen, and personally, I wouldn't give up on him too early, and again, in that sort of situation, I would still wait with Dubois and try to see if you can get him in free agency, try to see if you can get him as an RFA, and just wait and see what happens. I think patience can be a big thing for Montreal. They still have a lot of great prospects, and I think eventually they'll be a cup contender. They might even be one this year. We'll see. But this is a team that, yes, can win now, and if they add Pierre-Luc Dubois, will be an even bigger win now team. But I think also patience should be key, especially in a guy like a Kotkaniemi, who has a lot of potential I still think in the NHL. Trading him from Dubois, yes, would not be the worst thing in the world, but I would love to see how he turns out in Montreal, and I think, again, he can be that second line C. Dubois will be awesome on the team, yes, but I don't know. I think just in that whole scenario, Columbus is just asking too much right now. And then we get into the actual likelihood of a Pierre-Luc Dubois to Montreal trade happening in the first place. And with the current offers that are on the board, I'm not sure how likely it is. Now, I think the Kotkaniemi one is a lot more likely, but personally, again, I still think Kotkaniemi has a lot of talents, a lot of potential. Same thing with Victor Mete, who I think people have given up on a lot recently, but he really doesn't play the game that Montreal plays, so maybe he would be better somewhere else in a more offensive role. But especially Kotkaniemi, a guy who was the 3rd overall pick, I still think can be that type of guy and be up to that level for the Montreal Canadiens, especially as a second line center, which I think would be perfect for him behind Nick Suzuki. I don't know. I feel like even that ask is a little bit too much for me, but we'll see what happens. I think for Montreal, I think, again, patience will be key here. With Pierre-Luc Dubois, obviously, there's a lot more suitors, but he wants to go to Montreal, so if he knows that they have interest and it just demands some waiting time, then I think we might see that happen. But just with a Pierre-Luc Dubois trade in the first place, I'm kind of just iffy on Montreal trading for him in the first place. This is the player that is really, really solid, had a great year last year, I thought, especially in the playoffs. But if what we are hearing is actually true, do you really want a player like that on the Montreal Canadiens? From what we heard with John Tortorella and with Pierre-Luc Dubois, it was confirmed that Pierre-Luc Dubois is still not telling his teammates why he wants a trade, and it's just up in the air for his teammates to wonder and decide about. That kind of decision, that kind of aura, I'm not sure if I would want that on the Montreal Canadiens team. If you want to trade, be honest with the team. Try and make a resolve. Try and make something right. Try to get a compromise. But he just wants to trade. And obviously for Montreal fans, having Pierre-Luc Dubois would be great. But that kind of mindset, you don't know if that changes once he goes to Montreal. You could still have that sort of mindset and still have that kind of, oh, I'm better than everybody else and I deserve the most stuff in the world. I deserve everything I want. That's what you don't want in a player, especially on a Stanley Cup winning team and a team that is as new as it is, let's say, with all the acquisitions and all the craziness already going on in that locker room. To me, from what I've heard of Pierre-Luc Dubois, at least in that sense, it seems like he's a little bit of a diva, and I hate saying that, but again, if he's not going to tell his teammates why, if he's not going to try to get any resolve whatsoever with his team, I don't know how that's much different in Montreal, especially when it comes to contract negotiations. We'll see what happens, but personally, for Suzuki, that kind of trade, I would never want to see that. For Kotkaniemi, I can entertain it, but I'm not sure if just, unless they do get rid of those two centers, unless they get rid of either one of those, I don't really see how Pierre-Luc Dubois fits with that team, fits with that culture, and fits with the Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to be honest here. I would keep Kotkaniemi, I would keep Suzuki, and keep the team they have now. This team is fantastic. I don't know if they should change more than they've already changed. You've gotten so many free agent acquisitions, so many new faces of that team, and it'll already take a lot to get used to that. So I think they should wait, be patient. If they can get in a free agency, that's fantastic. But for right now, keep on to the youth. That makes you so good. But that is going to be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this rant type video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. Let me know down in the comments down below. Do you want him in Montreal? Do you want Pierre-Luc Dubois not in Montreal? What do you think about these trade offers? The Kotkaniemi one, the Suzuki one. Would you accept? Would you deny? Let me know. And how do you think Pierre-Luc Dubois would do with the Montreal Canadiens as well? Make sure you comment all your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you share this video with your friends. Get the Pierre-Luc Dubois rumors out there, and the potential of him being on Montreal, still kind of weird, but could be a possibility soon. And make sure you click on this card for all my trade rumor content right on one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I'll see you in the next video or stream. Goodbye.